if I'm selling beautiful turmeric grown by an Andhra farmer, like on the banks of a river outside Vijayawada, I wanted people to know about that. And I want them to know exactly what food he and his family are eating using that turmeric. Like, they should know those recipes.
Sana, welcome to That Desi Spark. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
So I want to start from the beginning.
Okay.
When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A spy, 100%. A horse riding spy who wore leather pants.
I
was very specific.
I love that specificity. What was the role of food growing up in your house?
I think you know the answer. I mean, it was sort of everything. And I don't come from a foodie family at all. Like, my mom could skip meals, no problem, but my whole brain organized around food. And so, like, we joke that at my nursery graduation, so I was, 3.5, nobody could find me. And eventually they found me in the kitchen eating everybody's snacks. So I've just always been the kid who, like, I'll be like, what's for breakfast tomorrow? Ooh. But also, my family is really mixed, which India in the 90s, that was not common. So my mom is Jain, my dad is half Hindu, half Muslim. My dad's sister married a Mangalorean, my dad's other sister married a Punjabi. So just like on Sunday lunch, we had, my mom's Gujarati Jain food, Mangalorean food, Punjabi food, and Gujarati Muslim food. So I feel like food was also the connector to these, like, very different cultures.
Talk to me about growing up in Mumbai in the 90s.
I loved it. But in retrospect, like, it was such a wild time in Mumbai because, so India neoliberalized, right, in 1992. And so I was maybe like my generation was the childhood where, like, they were just trying wild capitalist stunts on us. Because until 1992, India was a protectionist state. We didn't have all the multinationals. So I remember when McDonald's came to India. I remember when Nestle came to India. And I remember the summer where we went from having, dahi yogurt in, like, the clay pots at home to when all the TV ads, like MTV nonstop one whole summer, played ads telling you that the plastic containers of yogurt, like the tubs of yogurt, was better. And suddenly, like, plastic tubs of yogurt became, like, the upper class status symbol. It's like, I can get Nestle yogurt, which sucks. Like, homemade is so much better.
So much better.
But so I basically just, like, remember so much of those transitions. Like, remember when fruit roll-ups came to India? Life-changing. So I think it was also a time when there was, like, hope for India and, like, our future. Like, we felt, we were maybe, I guess, a 50-year-old country, and it felt like anything was possible. I think now India at 76 is sort of like, some of that, like, radical optimism of, like, we can be anything. We've neoliberalized and the world is our oyster has, like, turned into, like, cold hard cynicism for this next generation. So I liked the wild hope of the 90s.
How did wild hope translate in how you grew up, both in your spirit, not just with, your really unique family?
Yeah, I think, my dad's, like, line always growing up was, we have a lot of privilege, so how can you be of service? And my grandma was a social worker, so it was definitely the family gig. Did you ever take a Jet Airways flight?
Yes.
Did you ever have, like, the Save the Children India box come around on the Jet Airways?
Yes.
That was my grandma. She started Save the Children India. So that was very much the family business. Not that it was business at all. And so the thought was, use your privilege, be of service. And I think, my parents went to Berkeley in the 80s, and they worked at Berkeley after they graduated, and then came back to India in 1988. And so they described themselves in 1988 as feminists, which, like, to this day, most people in Mumbai are not going around being like, oh, yes, we're feminists. And so I think being raised by two feminists meant that as a girl, I was just told that you can do anything. You can just take over the world. You can be whoever you want. You can be loud. You can be bossy. Like, that is all celebrated in this house. And on one hand, that was amazing, and I'm so grateful for them. and it was completely at odds with like the dominant culture at my school, amongst my friends, amongst other parents. So I think I struggled a lot in school. I was definitely like the bullied queer kid. I didn't know that queerness was an option, so I didn't know what I was and why I didn't feel like I fit in. But they did say that, yeah, you can be anyone. And I think that transformed my whole life.
You followed your parents' footsteps and ended up in the States as well. Talk to me about that.
And I also ended up in Berkeley. I think my parents talked to me about Berkeley Bowl for most of my childhood, where they're like, it's this land where there's like citrus and avocados. And I graduated college and I immediately found my way to Berkeley Bowl, this magical grocery store. I think, I went to high school in Italy. I went to this high school called UWC, which for your boys, it's 200 kids from 100 different countries, and everybody's on full scholarship. So it's a really special UN for the world. There's 25 all over the world, and you don't get to pick where you go. So I got sent to the one in Italy, and life-changing. Like I went from being a sad, bullied, queer kid in Mumbai who was having kind of a very, very hard time to just flourishing and being like, oh wow, I get to recreate my own identity at 16. And somehow I think my dad had researched a lot about liberal arts colleges. So again, progressive feminist dad who was just like, I want my kind of different kid to flourish, and she's not going to flourish going to Cal or Duke or Emory, which were all the schools known in India, like the big private schools. And he was like, how do I find the most tender liberal arts environment where my artsy kid will thrive? And I ended up going to art school at Pomona, which was 1,600 people. And I got to major in visual art, food systems, and environmental analysis. The most alternative hippie shit. But that's exactly what I do for work now. You know, I'm a very unique case where I majored in undergrad in exactly my job today. And I think that's because I was allowed to explore and experiment and be who I was from a very young age. So by the time I was 21, I was like, yeah, I know who I am. I figured it out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's so rare to have that sense of self-actualization at such a young age.
Yeah.
And I think it did set you up to start Diaspora at a very young age.
Super young.
In 2016, you booked a one-way ticket back to Mumbai.
Yeah.
What was the goal with that trip?
It was so much, back then my ambitions were so much smaller than I think they quickly became. I saw that Gwyneth Paltrow was really into turmeric lattes and haldi doodh, and I was so confused by that. And I had this line in my head that I kept saying where I was like, if white ladies are gonna consume turmeric lattes, I would like brown farmers to be getting rich off of that. That was the whole premise. And I was a photographer at the time. I was working a marketing job. So my thought was, I'll go back to a turmeric farm. I'll visit a bunch of turmeric farms. I'll take photos and show people where their turmeric is coming from. So initially it was an art project and a media project. And then I started visiting these farms and was like, wait, they don't have access to market. They're not getting rich at all. They're selling their turmeric to their local auction house. And like you said, your family's from Hyderabad, and the first place I went was actually Andhra and Telangana. And I found that they were growing beautiful varieties of turmeric, but they had no access to even the Mumbai big city market or the Hyderabad market. Forget a import market, So the more problems I saw, the more my wildly idealistic and very confident 23-year-old self was like, I can fix that. And in my head, I was like, I can fix that in 2 years. It's been 8 years and I've barely fixed it.
You launched Diaspora a year later with that turmeric, right?
Yeah, I think 6 months later.
It's incredible. And you've been very intentional about connecting the stories of the farmers to the customers with such dignity and such care. You said you are an artist as well as a food systems advocate and student. Talk to me about how you did approach storytelling from the get-go with Diaspora.
So 2012 to 2016, I was in college and I was literally studying the food system. And I was really enamored by what I was seeing in California. But so for example, I saw the bean to bar chocolate movement. And I was like, this is delicious chocolate. And like, you're using capitalism to raise the commodity price for chocolate globally. Incred. But nobody looks like the chocolate grower, like the cacao growers, you know? It's all like bearded white dudes in Brooklyn and Oakland making and roasting chocolate. And then when they're telling the stories of where the cacao comes from, they're reducing it to a country name of like, this is the Ethiopia bar, this is the Uganda bar. And I was like, do you know anything about Uganda? Do you know what Ugandans look like? Do you know how they use cacao? Like there was just this complete disconnection from who grows the ingredient. And that felt really colonial to me. You know, it felt like what the British did with curry powder, what the British did with vindaloo. Like the British, you know, when they colonized us, they took our culture and completely divorced it from the people and said, ooh, those people are dirty, curry powder, nice. And so I was seeing that and I was like, I just think there has to be a better way to tell these stories. And if I'm selling beautiful turmeric grown by an Andhra farmer, you know, like on the banks of a river outside Vijayawada, I wanted people to know about that. And I want them to know exactly what food he and his family are eating using that turmeric. Like, they should know those recipes. Like, I would ask people, when you think of pepper, what do you think about? And they would say, oh, like French food, or like steak au pauvre. I don't know how to say that in French, sorry. The French steak with pepper, that one. And like, France doesn't grow pepper, you know? They just colonized a lot of countries that grow pepper. Similarly, when you think of chocolate, often people think of Switzerland. Like, they don't grow cacao, they just have milk. So they like made milk chocolate. So I wanted people to like be like, okay, peppercorns, I'm actually thinking about like beautiful Kerala cuisine that highlights pepper and cardamom, which are both indigenous to Kerala.
I want to go back to something you touched on Gwyneth Paltrow shilling turmeric lattes, and that really sparking this.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to do this, let's do it in a way that makes the farmers rich and brings the story and the dignity back to the growers. There is a fine line between cultural appreciation and appropriation. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like it's so simple and I don't understand why people get it wrong. Like, it's give credit to where it came from and then do whatever you want with it. You know, you want to use turmeric to make pasta, make pasta. Like, my thought is always, when food moves around and when food like travels through different cultures, it gets better. So you want to use an ingredient that's indigenous to one place and like make something else with it. Awesome, love that. Just give credit to where it came from. So like, I think with golden milk, my whole thing was it didn't get invented in LA. Like, this is an ancient Ayurvedic drink that actually, like, there's records from 2000 BCE. That's like written down in Sanskrit. I just found those texts. And so just like acknowledge that you're pulling from Ayurveda, acknowledge that you're pulling from traditional Chinese medicine. As long as you're doing that, you want to add ghee to it, you want to add butter to it, you want to call it a bulletproof golden whatever, no problem. And I think that's where I think a lot of people get tripped up because they feel they're coming from a scarcity mindset. So they're saying, you're saying I can't have this. I'm saying, no, I'm saying you can have everything. You can have the world. You just have to acknowledge where it came from.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You've been very careful in how you've scaled the brand, but you also grew the company and grew the brand in a time when a lot of other similar food startups were shrinking through the pandemic and beyond. What does scaling while still being true to equity look like for you?
That's a good question. I feel like the biggest one, you know, when we talk about equity in this way, we're talking about like values and staying true to like being rooted in doing things the right way and with integrity. But when you talk about equity, you can also mean who's paying for this, right? And like, who has a chunk of this pie. I think that is where a lot of young, I don't know, BIPOC folks, queer folks, women tend to lose it. And it's really lack of access. So I didn't know anybody personally that had fundraised a large amount of money in my personal circle, right? So when I went about to go fundraise, I had no example of who to look at, where I was like, I don't know somebody who's writing $5 million checks. So it's very tempting to then like watch a podcast and be like, okay, they say go to venture capital, they say go to private equity, let me do that. And I think a lot of people took venture capital money, especially between like 2014 to 2021, not realizing that what does venture capital money mean? It's great money, take it, but it means your growth has to look like this. And if you can't pull that off and you don't have product market fit to pull this kind of growth off, you're wasting their money, and they will like push you to do things that maybe you're not comfortable doing. So I was really grateful that I was like mentored very early on from our board advisors, who had been through many fundraising rounds before, to be like, take slow capital, take capital that, just is completely values aligned with you and understands that you want to grow this company with what's best for the farmers first. It's fully a social impact venture. I will not, at least in the next 5 years, be 100 million in revenue, because we're growing at the rate of agriculture, right? So we literally have, like, if I needed to create 100 million in revenue, I would need to find like 30 more incredible Pragati turmeric farmers growing regeneratively by next year. That's not possible because they have to grow it to the ground. So I think that the first one about growing with equity has been take money from folks who understand your mission. And that's hard. Like, I think I had, over the past 4 years, I've maybe had like 400 investor calls. And a lot of them end with like a 15 minutes in a hang up, because I'm really candid about what I'm looking for and what I cannot give them. And they'll be like, so great for you, no thanks. And from people I really respect. So those no's are absolutely okay. And then the yeses are from like wonderful, a lot of operator angels. So for example, Tyler, who runs Salt and Star Ice Cream, he was just like, we already buy spices from you. Of course I want to invest in the business, Loka Chai, I don't know if you saw the changemakers. They came on as investors. So it's been like, we've really been community funded and community powered. And I've tried to be as candid and vulnerable about who we're going to grow up to be. So that's, I think, one part about growing with equity. And then the other is just being really transparent. Like, I think maybe it's the trauma, but I'm overly vulnerable and transparent all the time naturally about my personal life. So it came very easily about my work life. And like a good example is about a month ago, we had to raise prices. And that's because we've been hit with 50% tariffs. And I tried for 6 months to not raise prices, and we just didn't have a choice. And so we've raised prices about 15 to 20% across every single SKU for right now. And we were just really candid about it. And we had the opposite effect. I was so scared. I thought that, the company was going to completely fold in itself and shrink, and all of our revenue projections for this year were going to go to shit. And instead, by being transparent, people understood, and the support has been incredible. And we're going to hit our revenue numbers for this year. So calling people in, both in when you need money as a consumer and when you need money from investors, has been really valuable.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It is a very, very exciting time for Diaspora right now. This weekend, you not just only launched your collaboration with Padma Lakshmi for the gunpowder pudding, which is delicious. You also just launched a cookbook, and you have a pop-up happening in New York.
Yes.
You took this business that was very online, and you're able to do 3 very different things.
Yeah.
That takes you from behind the computer screen or behind the phone screen and really engage with the community in a really meaningful and special way. Talk to me about this transition from the online to offline experiences.
Yeah, I still think it's kind of wild that we run a spice company, which is so much about flavor and aroma, on the internet, where you cannot get flavor or aroma. That's a little ridiculous, and I cannot wait to have a flagship. More on that later. In the works and happening. We're waiting to sign a lease. And so we'll have a beautiful flagship space as of next summer.
Wow.
That's actually the first time I'm admitting that to anybody. But then, I don't know, in terms of the Padma of it all.
Let's go into that specifically. How did this collaboration come to be?
Kind of like how I met you. I slid into her DMs. but fully. I know I slid it to your DMs.
You did.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am a huge fan. I actually made I used your turmeric to make like haldi doodh for myself this morning with your pepper as well.
Oh, I'm glad.
So we are a big fan of yours in the household.
Fully diaspora loaded.
Yes.
I have known Padma since about 2019. She started buying the Guntur chilies
So good.
when we were, a very tiny company. Nobody knew about us. And she put us in 2019 in People magazine in her like spread of favorite things. And it was one of our first print features ever. So I was just blown away by her generosity even back then. And then since then, it's just been like love you so much. You're so great. You're so beautiful. Wow. So talented. And every time she's launched something, we've tried to do, some kind of activation with her. So when she did Tomatoes for Nilu, her children's book, we gave away spices as part of that because her tomato sauce has spices in it. And I think, she, in her era of leaving Top Chef and coming into her own, she has a new show coming out soon. I think she's able to take more risks and do fun things. And so when I asked whether she wanted to do a spice blend together, she immediately was like gunpowder because she grew up eating gunpowder her whole life. And, there's a lot of spice companies out there. And I think what I really respect about her is she chose to work with the company that was most values aligned with her. We're doing a revenue share, but she's not getting rich off of a gunpowder collaboration. She's very much doing it for the culture, for the community. And I just think that's really special. The industry doesn't run on a lot of that,
So you have a flagship coming
Yes.
on the heels of all these pop-ups. You just launched this delicious gunpowder puri with Padma Lakshmi. And talk to me about the cookbook.
The cookbook has been a 5-year process. It's been a lot. So it opens up for pre-order next week on the 25th, then it officially comes out in March. But essentially, from January to March of every year, I was visiting our farm partners for harvest season. So a lot of people don't know that spices have seasons, but most spices are harvested between November to March. And so January to March is when I would go there and be like, how's the harvest looking? How much can you give us? Do you need anything? And my favorite part of harvest season was eating in their homes. I remember going to our Byadgi chili farmer in Karnataka, and they casually opened up this their 4-layer tiffin on the farm and spread out this just next level picnic, including a wild tomato chutney using the Byadgi chilies, these little almost like parathas that were stuffed with sesame that was grown on the farm and sweetened also with jaggery from the farm. So it was just truly farm to table South Asian food that was so fresh, so just it was beautiful and bright. And then I experienced the same thing on our cardamom farm in Kerala, the same thing on the saffron farm in Kashmir. Until you've had kava, which is green tea, almonds, licorice root, and saffron in the snow on a saffron farm. Oh, it's so magical. So I was just having these experiences as I was traveling the length of breadth of South Asia and realizing that people don't know this version of South Asian food, and at the beginning I mentioned how when people think about pepper or cardamom, they think about cardamom buns from Scandinavia or, steak in France. But my hope with the book is when they think about cardamom or pepper, they can start thinking about the farmer who actually grows it and what they eat. So Asha and I traveled across all these farms for 4 months. Asha is our recipe developer. And we came out with 170 recipes that we then brought to an American home kitchen. And we spent another 6 months trialing all the recipes here to adapt them so that they work in you and me's kitchen. And then, it's been another 1.5 years of writing the book. And it finally comes out in March.
I can't wait.
It's going to be good. And there's a lot of really good Andhra recipes too.
Yes.
And that really rep, proper Andhra food.
And I mean, that's the thing is Hyderabadi food is so different than
Totally.
Andhra food. So I So Andhra Biddi is I'm very excited to get this in my kitchen and to cook it with my children as well.
Yeah.
Because their Indian experience is very different than mine. I grew up going every summer. I got to go as an adult many times for work. They've been twice, which is a gift compared to a lot of second generation born, but building their Indian experience in a way that is very authentic, values aligned, is also very difficult when you're one generation removed from being in India.
Yeah.
You have 2 stepchildren, and I'd love to know how you're infusing Indian values, Indian culture in their own multicultural household.
That's a good one. I think it's been hard because, you know, I'm not their parent, I'm their bonus parent. And so there's also like limits to like how much my culture can infiltrate, but I am the cook at home. So I feel like I'm getting to them via food, where normal dinner at home is usually like tortillas with paneer matar, or khichdi with like frozen veggies in it, because they'll be like, oh, carrots, yay. Like peas. I'm like, eat the khichdi.
By the way, that's our Monday night dinner usually.
Is usually khichdi.
With frozen veggies.
With frozen veggies. It's so easy.
It's
Stick that shit in the rice cooker, and then you add your frozen veggies at the end. You add some Greek yogurt, protein, yay. It's done.
You've said before that you want diaspora to live on well beyond you, but you don't want to be the one running diaspora forever. And that is a mentality many founders don't have. And many entrepreneurs, I think, learn this lesson the hard way a little too late. What does succession planning look like for you in diaspora?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I understand why founders don't have that mindset, because like I've now been doing this for 8.5 years. It is so much of my identity, so much of my mental health is like unfortunately tied to like how our Shopify store is doing. So I see how like life without it feels terrifying, especially the longer I do it. But I think succession planning is definitely empowering our teams to run without me. I feel like good founder, good CEO job is like make yourself redundant is in as many places as possible. And I've really been on that track. Like the ops of the company, I don't touch anymore. Sourcing, I like, you know, have a little pinky involved in, but like the sourcing team does an incredible job now. Marketing, I still have a lot of paws in, and I'm still, we call me the show pony. So I'm figuring out how to like unspool myself from show ponydom. And I think it's happening more and more. You know, we have a test kitchen in Mumbai, and we have 20 folks who work with us in India. And so that marketing team, like they're taking over more and more. They're doing farm level storytelling. All of our recipe videos are done at the test kitchen in Mumbai. I'm doing 1 video a week, but they're doing 5. So there's that slow unspooling. And I think my reasoning around it is I have so much fun on like the scrappy getting involved stage. But then from like the 15 mil to 50 stage, I don't know anything. You know, like, and a lot of like growing a business between those 2 stages, like 15 to 50, is about like really scaling into grocery, really focusing on sales. I'm ultimately like a kooky queer artist who like wants to do fun, wacky things. I was not made for like the spreadsheet sales life of 15 to 50. So I would love to hire somebody who was absolutely made for that, and they can do that, you know? So right now that's kind of how it's looking like. And it's, you know, I also mentioned that we want to add more children to our chaos. And I simply don't know how I can like do the current job that I do with this level of involvement while trying to birth a child. That feels really hard. So I'd like to make some succession planning before that.
That's so smart. I mean, I also don't do what I do, which was
I'm already mentally ill. So.
Say yes to everything and then work yourself into a state of burnout in like a really toxic cycle until you're finally like,
done.
No, I'm choosing not to do this anymore because I made those choices in the past.
Yeah.
Something I say a lot is acceptance and detachment are not at odds with success. They're actually the guardrails to your success.
Ooh.
Because you have to
let some stuff go.
You have to let some stuff go, and you cannot define your self-worth by your net worth.
Yeah.
And so that's the lesson I have been slowly learning, especially over the course of this past year.
Yeah.
What is the dream collaboration that you want to achieve for Diaspora?
I mean, I think I said this on Instagram the other day where I was like, we kind of did it. You know,
Yeah.
it was Padma. I didn't have a bigger aspiration. Like, she is the biggest South Asian in food. So what comes next? What is the biggest collaboration?
But what about
next?
a non-South Asian collaboration
True,
to be able to bridge from appropriation to
You're right.
appreciation?
Yeah. I mean, I have loved, there's one that you love and there's one that I love. So both Chobani and Taco Bell. Those are like the two incredible companies that I want to play with. I think Chobani has just built, you know, an immigrant refugee-centric business with a really high quality product. So if we could play with Chobani, that would be nice. Hi, Chobani. And I think
Slide into their DMs.
I have tried. Oh, I have really tried. I have not slid into anybody's DMs. Trust. And I think Hamdi is an amazing, like, very inspirational leader and CEO. And then Taco Bell. Like, I think as now identifying as more Indian American, because I've been here 12 years, Taco Bell is so integral to the culture. I grew up trading Taco Bell salsa on the playground. So if we could do like a Taco Bell spiced situation, I don't know, I'm thinking like a tandoori Crunchwrap Supreme. Wouldn't that be good?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
I think so. With paneer.
Oh my God.
It'd be a game changer, right? We already have that recipe on our website. So I'm like, Taco Bell, I'll just give it to you. It's so good.
Oh my God. We need to make this happen.
If you talk to your people, I'll talk to my people.
Yes. We'll also get Taco Bell sommelier Tarun on it as well. Yes. We'll make this happen.
So those are my top two.
Aside from growing your family, what are some of your personal goals?
So about a year and a half ago, when I met my partner, he took one look at me and he was like, "You are very mentally ill. Has anybody told you that?" And I say that with love, with so much love. And I was like, "Really? Me? Mentally ill? I don't know what you're talking about. In India, we don't talk about that. That doesn't exist." And I have been going to therapy for years, but I didn't have like the medical language for how my brain worked, other than like it didn't work the way I thought everybody else's brain worked. And so I got on meds last year, and so much of my life has changed, where I was like, oh, basic executive function in the morning, I struggle with that. And the psychiatrist was like, we have a medicine for that. I was like, oh, wow. So I think like coming to terms with being like, I mean, I joke about mental illness in a way that I don't think a lot of other people do, but like, it's very much a part of me. You know, I'm like very much like still the young queer kid who really struggles with like rampant depression and anxiety. And I think it makes me a more empathetic leader to my team, and like, I think community member, and like being really upfront about it. So I think like continuing to work with and work on my mental illness feels big for the next few years. And then what else? I don't know. I've had a lot of joy in the past year from like, I cook 3 meals a day for all 4 of us, and I love it. So I've definitely been in my like getting right in my brain and nesting era amidst running the company. And I think it's also taught me kind of exactly what you said. Like, I think your line was like acceptance and detachment. So I think because I'm accepting a lot more about like what I am and what I am not, I think I'm like seeing what I need to stop doing 100%. Like, I'm like, you need to let that part just go if you want to attain this next step. And like the next step is the marketing team of Diaspora can run completely independent of me. Okay, well, there's a lot of like level ups I need to do in here before that external level up is possible, right? So a lot of inside work.
I love that. And I love that you defined that as your big goal, because so often we put that on the back burner, or it's something we don't talk about and center what we define as success in this next chapter in.
Yeah.
And I really think that is so refreshing, because our culture especially is so achievement oriented, that this is also highly ambitious. And this is also deeply important.
Yeah.
I want to take it back to where we started.
Okay.
If you could tell young Sana something, anything from all the things you've learned and all the ways you've grown since, what would you tell her? But also, what wouldn't you tell her?
Ooh, I mean, until I was 5, I was super confident. Like, I remember strutting around kindergarten being like, I'm so cool. And then there was just this, like, from 5 to 21, this just, like, crash of my confidence. And I just thought that I was, like, I just thought everything bad about myself. And I would love to go back to that 5-year-old and be like, you hold on to that confidence. You deserve it and you need it. And, like, you're awesome. Because I really was led to believe by society and the environment that I was terrible. And that was so sad, you know? So I think that's one part is like, please hold on to that confidence. You deserve it. And then I think the other one is I grew up a very queer, different kid in a very heteronormative, like status-oriented society. And I always felt like they had the formula to life that I didn't. And now, finally, at 32, I'm like, wait, I had the formula to life. I didn't believe that, like, as a woman, I deserved less. I didn't believe that the way that my mother and grandmother were being treated was correct. Like, a lot of the, like, core beliefs that I had were correct. They were wrong. And so I think there's, you know, it's both the confidence and the idea that, like, all the confusion you're feeling is to do with your environment, and it'll all make sense later. And, like, keep being, like, determinedly who you are. My problem, the reason I was so bullied is because I never conformed. You know, I was consistently like, I will be different, and then I would get horribly bullied. So I guess I'm also a little proud that I, like, stuck true to it all amidst all of that. Take that, 8th grade bullies.
8th grade is brutal.
8th grade was really bad. I, like, dropped out of school in 9th grade. And I homeschooled myself for 9th and 10th grade. So when I got into UWC for 11th and 12th grade, it was the greatest gift because I was literally like the sad kid sitting at home studying from textbooks while my parents went to work. It was not good.
Look at you now. And look at what you've done and the impact that you've made. You've built a big legacy by 32 years old.
I hope so. The family business is to be of service, so that's the hope. And I still think, though, that there's so much more to be done on diaspora, like, especially from an impact point of view. Mm-hmm. I think, like, another 10 years to really hit, like, the social impact goals that we set out to do.
What are those goals?
Yes, I have so many thoughts. So we pay our farm partners 4x above the commodity price. We're super proud of that. It means that on average, our farmers are earning $26,000 a year, and the average income for a farmer in South Asia is $2,600. So we're paying them 10x the average income. It's a good wage to make for the year. But the one place that we really haven't been able to change the system yet is paying farm workers better. And so on average, our farm workers across our supply chain will earn between 300 and 450 rupees a day, which I guess if you divide by 85, it's like between $3.2 to $4.2 a day. In order to be above the global poverty line, you know, when you adjust for all the things, they need to be above $5 a day. So we've done a lot of, like, math on what would it take for the 5,000 farm workers in our supply chain to get paid $5 a day. And initially you're like, it's a little more. It's only 80 cents more per day. Mm-hmm. But that 80 cents is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And so we need to grow 10x in revenue to where we are right now, and we're like in the mid-millions, in order to pay our farm partners or pay our farm workers that increase in their daily wages. And to me, if we're talking about being, you know, we're truly talking about building a better spice trade and transforming the spice trade, it has to include the worker, because often also with spices or with agriculture, caste plays such a big part, right? So the farmer is almost always landholding upper caste, and the worker is almost always landless lower caste. And so if you want to be truly progressive, you have to have that conversation about, like, actually how is like the Dalit community who works for almost all our farmers, how are they benefiting from this social impact business? Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen until we scale. So we got work to do.
How do those conversations go with the farmers?
Really tough. I mean, I think, you know, casteism is so inbuilt across India. Mm-hmm. I don't know as much about casteism in Sri Lanka, but in India, like, every state I go to, It exists, and as a like mutt, being Jain, Hindu, Muslim, I have the privilege to duck out of the caste system in a way because my ancestor ducked out of it, right? But I have class protecting me, where I go in as very much like an upper class now with the America label. So, I'm going into this with so much power, and then I'm having these trying to have a caste conversation with farm partners, and they struggle to like see what I'm seeing, and a lot of the time the like mentality is that, oh, these like scheduled caste people get so much free from the government, like they don't even need to work, or like they get so many benefits, they have legs up that I don't have, and they're not understanding the like larger historical context that like any leg up they're getting, they deserve like 10x more leg ups, because casteism has been like quite so disgusting, both in India and frankly in America too.
Yeah.
Like I think luckily we're talking about it more and more here, right? That casteism is perpetuated in the tech world 100%, where it's only upper caste folks who are becoming the like top software engineers, and they're not letting other people through. So it is everywhere, and I hope we start talking about it more.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for this incredible conversation. Tell us one action you want the community who's watching today to take.
Ooh, I want South Asian women to like own their power and be like, I'm gonna run shit and I'm gonna build shit, and I'm capable of that. That's what I want most.
I love that. Thank you for joining us.
I feel like you're the inspiration for that.
Oh my God, stop.
You are. You were like the first one, and then you like opened the door.
Thank you. That means a lot. Be the first, but not the last is something
Exactly. You open the door and you hold it open. Sorry.
Well, here's to just busting that door wide open and building a mansion.
I hope so. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.